Everybody, Jerome right here. Once again, you're joining me on my Jerome Wright channel. Okay. In this video, I'm paranormally and spiritually drawn to school massacres and massacres where children are targeted and adults are targeted on a mass level. I only did about 4 of these scenarios, which happened here in America. This building here that's being shown is from the 1927. And that was with the massacre of 45 people, and 38 of which were children. This was in Michigan, and the name of this killing is called the Bath Killings. The Bath Killings. Hold on for 1 minute. Let me make sure I get all the information with that. That's the Bath Massacre. Okay, and this is a school where this actually took place, and where a guy actually blew up the building, killing 45 people. It was crazy because later he blew up himself. Okay, and it was just crazy, and it was explained away as this guy as actually being in a financial rut with mortgage foreclosure, and his wife being ill, and him being turned away politically from a party. I mean, it was just a mess, people. The next one I'm going to do, I'm going to tie 4 of these massacres together, okay, through my paranormal experience and encounter. The next one we're going to go to the Virginia Tech shootings massacre in 2007. 32 people killed and 17 wounded. And normally what ended up happening is that the perpetrators of these crimes actually commit suicide on themselves after it's all said and done. So again, it's a similar scenario. Then we have the Columbine High School mass murders in 1999. 12 students and 1 teacher dead. And again, the perpetrator killed himself and committed suicide. All right. Number 4 I'm going to do is Sandy Hook, and that was just done here a few years ago in 2012, where 20 children and 6 adults as staff members were killed. And in that scenario there, you know, it's crazy. It was a lone gunman, and he was 20 years old, young man. It's crazy because no one has never made this connection as I do, and when I'm drawn to this, I'm paranormally drawn into it. I've been on this for almost 2 days, and I just couldn't let it go, and it just kept drawing me back to it and drawing me back into it and drawing me back into it. But I'll make this quick because I only have 15 minutes. There is something that ties these 4 locations that I all mentioned are all paranormally linked together. You know, people, what everybody has misunderstood and not had looked at. I mean, you look at these people as being troubled students. Lately, just in most recent years, they're blaming video games and blaming the availability of guns with children and what goes on in the home as being, that's just a small part of a drop in the bucket of what is actually really going on spiritually behind the scenes with these places. First of all, you must look at the histories of these locations. All of these locations that I've just mentioned have a spiritual rooted background to ancient Native American Indians. Well, Native Indians, let's say, because they weren't American, they were Indians. Let's look at Indians for a minute. Indians had a very spiritualistic tie to like cult-like rituals that involved in torture of their own kind, sacrifice of their own kind, sacrifice of children, sacrifice of adults, sacrifice of animals. And then these spiritual burial grounds. I mean, deep-rooted spiritual rituals where there were spirits called in. I mean, just imagine all of this on these lands. We don't know to what level and what extent these scenarios went and played out. So we have that scenario with the Indians. Then, people, we have where you have settlers coming in and start killing the Indians. I'm talking about European settlers, English settlers, French settlers, British, these people, wars, they came in and not only took and contaminated these people genetically, because they started dying of smallpox and all of everything else, stole it, robbed these people of their land, had evolutionary wars with these people, where they were killed, the Indians were killed. So now these are becoming all various mass areas of America have become almost like burial grounds, on the spot burial grounds for mass evolutionary wars, where there was a bloodbath. A lot of blood has been shed on American soils through just that scenario. And this is what the English and the I'm not with the English, with the French and with the Indians. Evolutionary wars. Now let's not just now hold on now. Before those wars, look at the wars between the Indians themselves, the different tribes, where they were waging wars against each other, territorial wars, where there was a lot of bloodshed amongst their own. And then now here comes the French. So all of these, you have a cauldron-like scenario where you have blood poured onto the soil in the droves. The French comes in, the French and the Indians go at it. French get killed, Indians get killed. Then the British comes in. That's a whole nother scenario where the British is killing off people. And then you have where, it's just the British and where you have the red coats and the blue coats. A bunch of mess going on where people, there's been a lot of spiritual release and deaths, violent deaths on the grounds of America. And namely in all of those 4 locations that I just mentioned, that scenario played out times 6, times 7 in those areas. It's my position now. Then you have building structures that come along that have the Roman style building structures, and where these buildings look like mausoleums. I did a video on it. Most of these Roman style buildings have the appearance in the front of like mausoleums, and these buildings, in my mind, are dimensional doorways. Now let's not just forget that the spiritual presence of these places. If there was any sense in this word of being spiritual release, spiritual doorways, spiritual dimensional doorways, it would be on all of these locations that I've just described in the elements of what the chemistry for this cult-like scenario. This chemistry is all right there on each one of those 4 locations that I've just mentioned, which were Sandy Hook, the Virginia Tech shootings, the Columbine High School mass murders, and the killings there at the Bath Massacre in 1992. All of these scenarios are places of spiritual bloodbaths between the Indians amongst themselves, their own spiritual and ritual cults like traditions, their own killings amongst themselves, their wars with their revolutions with the arriving settlers, with the French, and then with the French going after the with Britain. Everybody's fighting and killing, and everybody's dying here on these grounds, on these locations. And then these buildings are erected. And what comes with these buildings? Dimensional doorways. It's my position that through masonry, through stones, through that cult-like scenario. Let's add that cult-like scenario in too, because the mason architectural structures of these buildings are designed through a cult device or cult knowledge, which evolved from Rome and other parts of the world. This hidden knowledge that they're talking about, that they bring to the level of the table and creating these buildings where they become dimensional doorways for these spirits that have now a door, not only to come in, but to come out of. to make their presence, to make their spiritual sense embodiments of other beings, and cause them to engage and act in a way that they are acting. Now, why is it that for the most part where these things are taking place, it's actually, believe me when I tell you, it's happening against the Caucasians on these locations? Pale faces, as Indians would call them back in the day. Could you imagine what if an engine, the spirit of an engine, his spirit angered by his land being desecrated by the paleface and by so many others, and these buildings being erected, and so many of his people lying dead? Could you imagine him getting into the body of one of those shooters, or one of those persons that committed one of these mass murders, or both those persons? Could you imagine the power that they would inflict and the harm that they would inflict on? Who would they take their anger out on? The persons that they believed that caused them their harm and their demise. They would go after the innocent children, after the hearts of the innocent children, because these locations, these buildings, these schools where these dimensional doorways are created through the masonry, these children are sitting there helplessly and harmlessly for 8 hours on a day. Easy targets for dimensional beings and spirits to come in and attack. Not ones that think normally. I'm talking about ones that think like savages. The ones that actually had their land taken from them. Their children murdered. Little Indian children murdered. Ran over top, trampled by horses. Their wives, their children raped. Beheaded. And now they have the opportunity to come back in an afterlife and get retribution, take out their anger. And what are they doing? They are embodying these people that are acting and engaging in this behavior to go out and kill their own kind, innocent people, out of nowhere. And it's unexplainable until I've just now explained it. In America, this land was not theirs. This land belonged to the native Indians of this land. This land, the people that are here now came here. Those that were already here, their spirits that was here, their traditions were here, their sacrifices were here, their spirits are here for many and many and many of years. We are visitors on a land and done changed something. We done committed sacrilege on their soils. This people is what the problem is. This is where the problem is. This is where the problem is. I'm telling you, these things are going to keep happening as long as these dimensional doorways are here. These are places where these spirits can rise once again. They can embody anyone that are in these buildings. And it's the person that has the weakest mind, the openest mind. And I'm going to make another video about this as well, too. I'm going to make another video. And that video is going to be on my own experience, on what I used to go through in some of the buildings that I sat in when I was a child coming up, and what I would feel. I'm going to give you a live sense scenario of what actually goes on in the minds of these people. But think about it. Your son, your daughter sitting in one of, most of these buildings are still erected. I have my schools that was up. Most of these ancient buildings are still in your neighborhoods. Just imagine your child visiting one of these places and these spirits are there. One of these Indian spirits, in some kind of way, shape, or form, spiritually take in the body of your child. Causes your child to go out and commit mass murders. This is what this is about. And it's going to continue to happen because you know why? You did not see it until now. My name is Jerome Wright. I got to end this video because I only got 15 minutes. But people, feel what I say. On all of these locations, look at the history. These lands belong to Indian first. And everything I just described is how these dimensional doorways are opening out and giving these people the opportunity, these spirits the opportunity to return. I'm going to tie four of these massacres together, okay, through my paranormal experience and encounter. The next one we're going to go to is the Virginia Tech shootings massacre in 2007. 32 people killed and 17 wounded. And normally what ended up happening is that the perpetrators of these crimes actually was crazy because later he blew up himself. Okay, and it was just crazy, and it was explained away as this guy as actually being in a financial rut with mortgage foreclosure, and his wife being ill, and him being turned away politically from a party. I mean, it was just a mess, people. The next one, this building here that's being shown is from the 1927, and that was with the massacre of 45 people, and 38 of which were children. This was in Michigan, and the name of this killing is called the Bath Killings. The Bath Killings. Hold on for 1 minute. Everybody, Jerome Wright here, and once again you're joining me on my Jerome Wright channel. Okay. In this video, I'm paranormally and spiritually drawn to school massacres and massacres where children are targeted and adults are targeted on a mass level. I only did about 4 of these scenarios, which happened here in America. Let me make sure I get all the information with that. That's the Bath Massacre. Okay, and this is a school where this actually took place, and where a guy actually blew up the building, killing 45 people.